Okay, so this piece, it really does a great job of capturing the sheer urgency and scale of this 2025 quantum algorithm gold rush.
It really does.
It highlights the massive investment surges, the huge technological breakthroughs. It makes a really compelling case.
I agree. That metaphor, the invisible gold rush, it's perfect. So fresh, so engaging.
Right?
Now, let's dig into how we can structure that narrative so the tension hits the listener even harder. Right out of the gate.
Okay, so right now, the piece lays out the mechanics really well. In the section, Map, Algorithmic Race, you start with the money.
The big number.
The huge number, that 1.25 billion in Q1, the 128% surge. Then you back it up with a tech feed, Google's quantum echoes and its 13,000x speed up.
All solid evidence.
And then, after all that, you list the three big goals: breaking cryptography, new superconductors, and effective AI.
And the structure there is logical, but I think the order really dampens the drama. I mean, while the gold rush metaphor is effective, structuring the narrative around the prizes themselves would just maximize the impact.
Ah, okay.
Think of it this way. You're showing us the shiny new digging equipment and how much it costs before you even show us the gold.
That's a great way to put it. We're detailing the means before we really establish the motive. The reader knows a race is on, but they don't feel the drive, the existential threat, or the huge reward that's driving it all.
Exactly. And that's the weakness. These crucial high-stakes goals, they're the real treasure, but they're currently listed almost as a consequence, like an afterthought.
Instead of being the core drivers of the whole narrative.
Right. It puts the cart before the horse, and it sacrifices that urgency you're trying to build.
So the fix is establishing the stakes right away. The audience needs to know what the prize is before they hear about the tech chasing it.
Precisely. The suggestion is to pull those existential stakes up much, much earlier, especially in that map section. If the algorithm is the map, these three challenges are the mines, the treasures.
And they should be the reason for the 1.25 billion investment.
Yes, frame the money as a reaction to the stakes, not the starting point of the story.
That's a really powerful narrative pivot. It reframes the whole thing from, look at this investment, to look at what they're fighting for, and here's the money pouring in to win it.
So how do you do it?
What's the most actionable way to make that switch?
Well, you could just pull those three prizes, cryptographic immunity, faster drug discovery, next-gen AI, right to the front.
Okay.
For instance, you could open that maps section by just asking the reader directly, what are the three most valuable things this algorithmic gold will buy? And then you just list them.
That sets the tone immediately. I like that.
Or, another way, you could integrate the industry demand, like the financial sector's 26% market share, pharma's needs, right into why those three challenges are so critical.
And then the 13,000x speedup becomes the solution to a problem we already understand.
Exactly. A specific solution to an established, globally recognized existential need. It just hits harder.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Let's pivot to the section on tools and miners. The material does a great job identifying this huge market reality. Demand for 10,000 quantum specialists, but fewer than 5,000 available.
And you call it a national security vulnerability.
Which it is.
It is, and honestly, that might be the single most important data point in the entire submission. It has so much tension, but I don't think we're leveraging it as fully as we could.
How so?
Well, the massive talent shortage is currently presented almost like an ending summary point, a factoid at the end. But it should be the central structural tension of the whole gold rush narrative.
Interesting, because the preceding discussion on hardware is actually pretty optimistic, right? Small startups can rent time on IBM's or Google's machines.
Right. It suggested democratization of the tools.
So if the tools are accessible, doesn't that make the technology or the money the real bottleneck?
That's where we hit the weakness. The discussion just sort of ends after presenting that talent data. It doesn't fully integrate it into the economic analysis. It feels like an urgent appendix, not the main plot point.
I see what you mean. If this gold rush is about algorithms, and algorithms require people, then the scarcity of people should be the main source of friction, way more than access to machines or capital.
So the argument becomes, while capital and hardware are becoming more available, the human capital to actually use them is critically scarce. We need to make that central.
Exactly. So the suggestion is to recalibrate that tools and miners section. Contrast the ease of getting hardware with the extreme scarcity of human capital.
The miners. The miners. This reframing shows that the biggest bottleneck in this whole race isn't tech or money. It's entirely human. That raises the stakes even more.
That's incredibly insightful, because democratized hardware should speed things up. But if there aren't enough people to operate it, you're just creating more competition for the same tiny pool of experts.
It actually intensifies the bottleneck. It creates this fierce secondary market where the commodity isn't computing time, it's the developers themselves.
So you pivot right after mentioning cloud access.
Immediately. After you say startups can rent hardware, you pivot to say that this only exacerbates the competition for the few available miners.
And we use those numbers, the 10,000 versus 5,000, not just as a statistic, but as the dramatic summary of that whole problem.
Yes, you use those figures to conclude the segment, and you explicitly state that this whole algorithmic gold rush is fundamentally capped by human expertise.
Which lets you land on a much stronger closing line for that section.
A much stronger line. Something like, the developers are rarer than gold itself. It's a punching metaphor that ties perfectly back to your main theme.
That definitely adds the structural tension it needs. Okay, last part, the close. The tone of this analysis, finance, national security, science, is very professional, very high level.
For sure. And the summary about algorithmic gold is tight and effective.
But then there's a bit of a break.
An unfortunate break, yeah. The conclusion has to maintain that professional gravity. It has to avoid any kind of tonal misalignment in that final call to action.
And the weakness is that abrupt pivot. After this insightful summary, it suddenly shifts to a very specific plug for a YouTube channel. It mentions the name OJ Invest News, tells people to subscribe, and it just breaks that sophisticated, high-level professional tone you've worked so hard to maintain.
It creates a jarring dissent. It really does. The suggestion is pretty straightforward. The conclusion should focus on engagement with the subject matter, not a specific platform.
Keep it thematic.
Exactly. If a promotional mention is absolutely essential, it needs to be generalized, minimized, so it doesn't overshadow the main message.
Right, we need a softer landing. Treat the listener like a peer who's already invested in the topic, not someone who needs instructions on where to click.
Absolutely. You can reduce that whole plug to a single high-level sentence. Something like, for more deep dive analyses on major technology trends, find our continued coverage online.
Keep it integrated. And then make sure that final closing line is the absolute last thing they hear.
Correct. That final phrase, stay quantum sharp, that has to be the final element. It provides thematic punch and maintains the gravity right to the very end.
This has been a fantastic breakdown. So, to summarize the 3 big adjustments. First, anchor the narrative in those high-stakes algorithmic prizes right at the start.
Establish urgency and motive.
Second, elevate the talent shortage to be the central conflict, showing human expertise is the real bottleneck.
And third, just optimize that conclusion to maintain a consistent, professional tone all the way through, ensuring the end matches the magnitude of the topic itself. It'll make the whole thing feel more robust, more logical.
We really look forward to seeing how these shifts land in the next draft. Please send your revised work back in again for a follow-up.